Episode number 232 with Steve and Mike. Welcome to the Heads Up Poker Podcast. This is Steve Barton.
This is Captain N Boss.
Captain N Boss. Nice to meet you, sir.
Rampage just isn't working anymore, Steve. Let's be honest. Let's shoot for something higher.
Right on.
There's only one Captain N Boss. There's a gazillion guys out there calling themselves Rampage. So
Yeah.
no, I don't know.
Captain N Boss. I did not expect that one. So how? I think we both had a pretty late night last night, huh? Did you? You were saying Ocean to open back up?
Yeah.
Nice.
I went last night and played till about 3:30.
Okay.
Made $300,
Okay.
which
Uh-huh.
eases the pay. All it takes is a small win, Steve. Like last night, I was like, "My God, talking to Steve, I'm on the fucking edge. How am I going to even communicate this? Can I shut up altogether? No, of course not. I like to whine, but it's like they've heard the. Anyways, I'm really truly at my worst spot, which is saying something, of course. But anyways, what am I going to do? I'm going to try to work through this.
It's
Kind of like in January, I think, if you remember, I was down to like my last fourth, basically broke. And then I was ready to borrow money from my brother. I said, just give me the weekend. Let's see if I can. And then I ended up having like a 20K month.
Yeah.
So I need another one of those. Usually I get 2 20K months a year.
Okay.
Or 1 to 3. I think 3 is probably the most, and always at least 1. So hopefully, I think I've already had 1. I desperately need number 2 here soon. But anyways, last night I was down 1,000, so I should be happy about it. And it was just a great game, and I finally had to leave. It's too bad because but I sat there after kind of getting even. I basically sat there for 3 hours waiting for the one big hand to make it a good night, because there were guys there that were not fond of folding. But
Yeah.
how about you, Stevie? Why were you up so late?
Oh, I just finished up a what we call in the business a 72. So it's 3 days in a row, 3 24-hour shifts. My regular shift, and then an overtime shift, and then my regular shift. And now I got today off, and then I go back tomorrow and do the same thing, another 72. So my little mini fishing vacation trip is done. I'm back to the grind. But,
Okay, yeah. Now, can you are there any firemen? Can you make a deal where you work 148 a week and then you just get 5 days off?
Actually, the way it would work out is it would be a 48 and then 4 days off, because there's 3 shifts. And if you average it out, you work 1 day, have 2 off, 1 day, 2 off. So if you just double that, it would work out to the same.
But
So
then
you
you'd be
could trade with a guy and do that. But generally speaking, you're going to need the department as a whole to adopt that schedule.
I mean, so there's not like a seniority thing. The one oldest guy there has the sweetest deal where he just somehow never works weekends, or only works weekends, or whatever. It doesn't really work that way.
Not really. I mean, if you wanted to, you could do trades and schedule it around so that you don't work the weekends. I mean, that would definitely be possible. It would be a lot of work. And I think after a couple of years, guys might start to realize that you're always trading a Saturday, for a Wednesday. And that deal may eventually
Yeah, I
dry
think
up.
I once dated a nurse, and she had she found a place. She made a good, I guess they were short of nurses or whatever the deal is. They always have trouble filling the weekends. So she got a full-time salary for working 2 12-hour shifts every week,
Wow.
Saturday and Sunday. And she got paid 40 hours a week.
Well, that's a pretty good deal.
So I wasn't sure if there's any firemen who can kind of make their own deal, schedule, whatever, where they only work 2 days a week for 24 hours. But I guess that everybody has to be available to work weekends at some point and help.
Yeah. It evens out in the long run. You end up working an even number of Mondays through whatever. But you can essentially make your own schedule by trading the days and stuff, which is kind of what I do. I kind of schedule my week, my time in blocks of weeks, and there's just something you kind of need to get away from that. When you're at work, you're always on point and you're always listening for the bell. You can never be further than 150 feet from your fire engine for 72 hours. It's a little mentally draining. So I like having 4 to 6 or 7 days off in a row, because it takes 2 or 3 days to unplug from that and not be the trained dog listening for the bell.
Right.
But yeah, last night we didn't get to bed until probably about the time you did. We got a little we had a fire. It was kind of interesting. It came in as a fire in the backyard, and it was at 1:00 in the morning, and it's Saturday night. We're approaching 4th of July. We hear fireworks going off probably about every 40 seconds around my station. It's in a in an area of town like that. Fireworks are illegal, but that doesn't stop anyone. They're still sending up Disneyland mortars. And so when we get the call for this, I kind of run through the Rolodex of 2 decades worth of calls, and I'm like, all right, fire in the backyard. This is very likely a bonfire where a family is sitting around a little fire roasting marshmallows on a Saturday night, especially the area that I'm in. That's probably the call 90% of the time. And the other 8% of the time, it's probably a guy that's just burning trash in his backyard. He saved up 3 years worth of bills and he never bought a shredder. So now he's burning them in his little trash can or something,
Right.
And the other 2% of the time, it's some other kind of fire. And so we get in the rig, and I'm like, yeah, just throw on your brush coat. This is just an illegal burn. And we start driving down there, and then a thing comes up on the computer screen that says duplicate call received, which means now not only one person has called about this, but now 2 people have in the last minute. And so then I tell my guys, I'm like, let's get our gear on. This could be something. We just went from 98 to 2% to like 80-20. And so we get our gear on, and we get back in the engine, and then dispatch comes over the radio and says, we now have a 3rd person calling saying the house is on fire. I'm like, all right, let's wake everybody up. Give me a first alarm, which is 3 other engines just like mine, 2 trucks, a battalion chief, a squad. It's like 27 people or something, just in case. Because once you get 3 calls, you're probably, the bullshit ones go down to about 5%, and 95% of the time, this is going to be a garage or a car or something, And so we get down to the street, and it was reported in the alley. But what we always do is we go to the front side of the house, because that's where all the hydrants are, and at least we got water.
Right.
And as we're driving down, I was asking the guys, I'm like, do you see a header, which is a column of smoke, which should be evident if it's a garage fire or something? And they're like, no, I don't see anything. And I'm like, I smell it, though. It smells like you kind of get sensitive to smoke smells when you're in the business. And,
Sure.
you can tell the difference between a campfire smell and a house fire smell, a electrical smell, like a flammable liquid smell like gasoline. And another very distinctive one that most people will probably never smell is the smell of burning fiberglass. So like one of those fiberglass tubs or showers, or fiberglass something, and that's what I smelled. And I was like, fiberglass in the backyard. It could be them burning trash, and they have an old tub or something, And then a girl came out, and she was probably the most calm person that I've ever seen approach a fire engine when there's a fire nearby and point out where it is. But she was talking just like you and I are right now. And she said, yeah, there's a fire in our backyard. It's my brother's boat. And you're probably going to need to go to the alley. And I was like, wow, she's very calm. And, one, and number 2, that explains the fiberglass smell. Because it's a boat, so we're like, all right, cool. So
You didn't smell the burning hair yet.
Not yet. So we drove around to the alley, and you're kind of committing yourself when you go to an alley, because there's no hydrants back there. So you're basically saying, we can put out whatever fire this is with the 500 gallons that we got on our rig, because the only way we're going to get more water is if one of the other engines loops the fire hydrant way at the end of the block and then lays you like a 700-foot supply line And that's going to take a lot of time, so you're kind of committing yourself by going into an alley instead of just pulling a line through their side yard and going to the backyard. But she really didn't seem worried, so I wasn't too concerned. And then we got back there, and it was just like she said. It was a little boat fire, probably 15 feet long, and then we just put it out. I had another engine coming, and I canceled the rest. But it was kind of fun for me because like moments like that, they happen, I don't know, 2 or 3 times a month where, you run all these routine calls that you can essentially do in your sleep. And then all of a sudden you get one when you were asleep to go, and you have to make all these incremental decisions very quickly with little information. And this was one of those where I feel like I don't think there's anything we could have done better. It was all very logical and just followed a pace, and it was kind of fun.
Nice work, Stevie.
Thank you. Yeah.
I mean, good work following the young strumpet, who's the only one who knew what the hell was going on, apparently. If that's what nice work is just stumbling around, sniffing, waiting for someone to point you in the right direction.
It's back here. Oh, perfect.
What's the name of the movie? There's one movie, Gary Oldman plays like a crooked cop, and if someone's talking to him, he leans in and starts smelling them, like he can smell deceits. It's obviously an affect, it's obviously a joke and affectation, but it's
he plays, that's one of my favorite roles. The movie you're talking about is The Professional.
Oh, you've seen that one. Okay.
Yes, it was with Natalie Portman when she was probably 12 years old.
Yes.
Yeah. Great movie.
Yeah,
I have it actually.
Okay, yeah. I forget the exact scene, but am I describing it more or less correctly?
Yes. Yeah. He someone's just trembling in fear, and he sniffs around him and then pops a pain pill and cracks his neck, and then's like, "You're lying to me." It's great. Can always smell when someone's lying.
When was the last time you were at a fire or somewhere where you felt overwhelmed? You're like, we just don't have enough guys. I can't get here in time. We're just that. Or preparation is everything. You don't even for like a small house fire that's not you. Even for the routine calls, you're calling usually for the backup trucks, right? Or
yeah, most of the time we kind of send the world and then cancel them once you find out. I'm afraid we've gone a little bit too far on that. I mean, they're dispatching the same amount of units when somebody has an electrical smell in their apartment. And for something like that, it's in it is 6 hours from igniting anything. We don't need to be sending the whole city, draining the resources when you could have somebody choking right next to a fire station, and now they're sitting on this stupid sparking outlet or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I think I'm trying to get into the dispatch system to help, I guess, make it more efficient. But it's more of a political process than I realized. And I don't know. I might be just wasting my time. I hope not.
You ever anybody get fired in your time there? I mean, how incompetent do you have to be? I guess. Not that the others are incompetent. I wonder. It's just like it's very hard to get. The post office has a very good union. There's people there. You're just like, how the fuck is this person not gotten rid of?
Yeah. Most of them were able to weed out in your first year. In your first year, we call it a probationary period. Okay. And you basically have a year to get rid of them for any reason, and they really have no recourse. And so we're pretty good at vetting them out there. And sometimes it's just something as simple as like, he just doesn't fit in here. You know what I mean? Like each fire department kind of has their own personality. You know what I mean? And it's like, he would do really well in this department over here, but he just doesn't really fit in right here. You know what I mean? And we're able to vet them pretty well during that first year because we have an entire year to do it. And it's you get tested daily, physically, mentally, all of it, and everything's documented. And so we're able to vet them pretty good. I can't think of any incident where someone's been fired. We've had guys demoted for bonehead moves, but a decade later they've come back, learned their lesson, and got back into the rank where they were. Yeah, I'm trying to think of anyone that we probably have had a few that have made it past that 1 year and we've let go.
Right.
But the 1 year is really the mark. I mean, we'll hire 20 guys, 15 of them that will make it through their 4-month academy. And then by the end of the probationary period, we've got 11, 12, so
Okay.
we've whittled it down. But
Yeah. So
it's
you don't.
uncommon to have a bad apple after that. You know what I mean?
You've never had some truck shown up, or you haven't seen a guy where there's like a fireman on meth who's just shooting water everywhere. Sticking the hose up his culo. Nothing like that.
I haven't seen that one yet. No.
Oh, okay. Oh.
Yeah. But sometimes it's funny though, I think one of the things I like about it so much is that like fire just in itself, it's got to be a primal innate instinct fear, because people just completely lose their minds when there's any kind of fire that appears to be out of control. Like we got one a few weeks ago. It was a bedroom fire. And so we're going down the street, and we see this pickup truck coming towards us pretty fast, straight at the fire, like right where we need to park, So we had to pull up short of the house because this guy in the pickup truck parked right in front of it. I mean, like it's completely blocking our, us pulling off the hose, getting out of the rig, like he's blocking our doors. And I'm like, what is this guy doing? And so we get out, and he's like, yeah, guys, this house is on fire right here. And we're all, yeah, no shit. What do you think we're here?
Right.
And he's all, you guys need to put it out. And we're like, can you move your truck so we can do that? And then it like dawned on him what he had done. And he's, oh, okay. He backed his truck up. It's like,
right.
Wow. But I like showing up to situations like that where, everyone's really excited. And I'm calm. And I feel like after 20 years of this, I'm finally like getting a real grasp on that. It's fun. I feel like I'm finally, after 3 years of being a captain, it might be 4 now. I feel like I'm getting
That's great.
Much more efficient,
Do you know what burning hair smells like?
Oh yeah.
You know that one too?
Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah. The one that sticks with you is burning flesh. That one is one you don't forget.
Does your city is there like pressure to like keep the hours down or control the costs of the fire department here, as we kind of facing some financial serious, like has there ever been a spot where like, okay guys, no more overtime for 2 months here?
Yeah, actually we're going through that, and that goes to vote here in 9 days on June 30th, and then it goes into effect on June 1st. So we opened up a paramedic squad because the south end of our town is pretty lean on paramedics. Oftentimes it's 8 or 10 minutes before a paramedic can get there, whereas once we introduced the squad, it went down to like 3.5 minutes. And they're closing that down, or at least they're voting on it. So that's 6 guys. There's two firemen on that squad. It's kind of like it's a neat little unit because it's a medical unit mostly. It goes to the medical calls, and you got a guy that's a paramedic as opposed to an EMT. And he is, so that's good. And they also go to all the fires. So you got 2 extra guys right there that you can throw on a hose line. And they have the equipment to do things like extrications. If there's a traffic accident, they got the jaws of life on there to pull the guy out. So it's really kind of a neat little piece of equipment that you're like, oh yeah, I got 2 extra guys. I can plug them in here, Anyhow, that's going away since COVID. They're getting rid of that with no real plan of when it's coming back. As far as the overtime, for them to get rid of that, they would have to start closing stations. And they almost closed the station last year, but we fought it, and we got the community to come up and basically come up in front of city council for us, and that squashed it. But I don't know. We'll see.
I think he told you when I was back in Charleston on my drive home from the bar I was working at, there was always a line or a couple of firemen with the boots to donate money.
Oh. So is it a volunteer department?
Maybe that's what it was. I don't know. And it's just like, I'm like, some guy sticks a boot in front of me. I'm such a wuss. So cost me $1 a day.
Yeah.
I thought it was a short-term thing. And my fiance, I'm like, this is going on for a month now. Is this like a permanent thing? Like there's a fucking fireman toll?
90% of the firemen in the U.S. are
Yeah.
volunteer.
No,
So
okay.
it was probably a volunteer department. Sometimes we do things, like charity events and we'll have donations like that. But my guess would that's what would it be? They're probably filling the boot for a new fire engine or equipment or something.
Now, Steve, I know you're terrified probably of me wanting to talk about current events here and some of the stuff that's going on here, but I'll try to do it without having to probe too deeply.
Okay.
You get any friends who are cops?
Yeah.
I mean, the cops just have a different kind of job. I mean, that's just tougher, right? I mean, they got people who want to kill them.
Yeah.
Are there different personalities you feel who are attracted to the police department? Like, this guy's like, you just tell him, this guy's a cop. You can never be a fireman. He needs a gun. He needs a badge. He needs the adrenaline of the street or whatever. He needs
They are a different breed. We train with them quite a bit. And we, how can I describe it? Okay, here's a scenario that might illustrate it. We were training with the SWAT team for an active shooter drill. So some kid goes into a school and starts shooting everyone up, right? The way the cops are, I mean, I think we're kind of a paramilitary organization as a fire department, but they're that times 3, right? Because just the way they move, the way they act, the way they talk, like this active shooter drill. Okay. We as firemen show up and basically we're trying to tend to people that have been shot, just quick bandage the wounds so they don't bleed out and move on to the next one, right?
Yeah.
The way the cops are thinking is it's more like a tactical hit squad, like the military. It's very cool to watch them work because they'll go in like the first 3 cops that get on scene of this active shooter. They just grab their rifles and they go in and they look just like Navy SEALs walking into the school ground, just pinning their rifles and scoping and calling out commands. And this one's clear. And over there, I think it's back on the west side. It's just very organized and tactical and kind of fearless,
Yeah.
Whereas we're way behind that. And we've got a couple of, we have 3 cops with us, 2 in the front.
It's got you holding a box of Band-Aids stuck on a pacifier, basically.
I have a fanny pack with a notepad and a grease pen, right? And
right.
my fireman's got, Curlex and Band-Aids. And we're basically hiding behind, they literally call it the meat shield of the 2 cops that are in front of us, blocking us. And the one behind, I, as the captain, am relaying the information to the ambulance crews and everyone outside, leading them in, following the safe route. But yeah, it is a different mindset. I don't think I could be a cop. They just have a different mindset, maybe it's just training. Like they're trained not to,
I think there's probably a different sort that are attracted there. I don't know, to see it as a battle. I'm not sure what percentage of cops are ex-military versus fire department. I'm guessing it's much higher. Someone who spent 3 years in the Marines, you know what I mean?
I don't know. I know that our guys, we probably have maybe, well, shot in the dark, but I do know everyone, and I know everyone's in the military. So out of 100, probably 8 to 12% of our guys. It may be higher though as cops, but I really don't know. But I do know that there have been a lot of cops that were in the Marines.
Right.
It seems like a natural progression to civilian life,
Of course, in the quarantine, I'm sitting here watching CNN all day and watching the riots, protests, whatever you want to call it. And I did see one guy getting interviewed. He's like, "Man, let's just make it. Everybody loves the fire department around here. Let's make them like that." And, basically, guys talking about how great the fire department is, and the cops are just all evil. And I'm like,
yeah, that is.
So you don't have to deal with that public thing. Is really, really good.
It is, and it's sad because they want the same thing that we do. They just want to serve and make the city a little bit better. And their job is to keep the criminals who are trying to not do that from happening, and ours is basically to patch up people when they get in a traffic accident or put out their garage fire. So we're both doing, I think, essentially the same mission. We've just taken they took a left on the Y and we took a right, and it's still going to the same mission, but we're performing different tasks, and for some reason they get the short end of that, and I don't know why.
Yeah, well, I mean, we kind of know why for some of the. I mean, yeah, it's just a tougher job. So it's gonna make them nastier too. I think you're showing up at a call saying, okay, who do we need to help here, and they're showing up probably, okay, what did some asshole do this time?
Yeah, I can see how after 30 years that would wear on you.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I was just curious if I'm not anti-cop. But if you've ever come across somebody where you get that feeling of darkness, like, oh my God, this guy's a cop. He's going to kill someone someday. This is the rage is pretty intense. I can sniff it out there, No, nothing like that.
I'm trying to think. Okay, I'm running through the Rolodex of all the cops I've seen in Oxnard. I've never really gotten an impression like that at all. I mean, there's got to be some bad apples out there somewhere. That the psych exam did not. What was that guy that went on a couple years ago? The guy that went into the cabin by himself because he didn't get promoted at work, and
Dorner, I think his name might have been or something.
Okay, what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Dave Chappelle was just actually talking about. It's interesting. He says it's a little different. This guy was kind of fired and pushed out, and he claimed, and it might be true, that he saw a white officer kick a suspect who was already compromised or on the ground or whatever. And he said he pointed that out. They started torturing him for not being, standing behind his own. So I don't know if that's true. And obviously depends where you are. I mean, if you're in Minneapolis or wherever, where there's like a large minority population that has culturally or pragmatically or whatever hates cops, it's just, your life is in danger, genuinely, with much greater frequency than anyone else in the country. I don't know. Have you had any civic disruption over any protest? Or probably a protest in Oxnard is like 100 high school students marching down the street,
That was the protest when Trump got elected. Was high schools just, a third of the kids didn't go to school and they marched down the down the street. And this one was a little bit more the protests from the Floyd thing was honestly, it was a lot of people from like outside the area, which was strange because we're asking like, where are you guys from? And they're all, oh, Washington, Arizona. Like, you don't even live here. So I think it was this organized group of hundreds to thousands of people that were just moving from location to location.
Professional agents of chaos.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It was very strange. It was them, and then it was all the drug addicts in the city.
Right.
So
no stores smashed. No, something like any stuff like that, or not? Really?
The police station got tagged up. What else? Just little shit, like broken windows.
See, the police department and guys are stopping by and giving you creme brulee cookies or something over there at the fire department. You guys get the better side of it for sure. But
we do. We definitely get deliveries of brownies and cookies and stuff like that. It's people see
the whole thing really is. I mean, I consider myself like the racial division. None of that surprises me at all. You know what I mean? Like I could have, I actually, I've called myself a prophet several times, Steve, but I've said like 20 years ago, this is like college. I said, the monuments are coming down. Like I will see the Washington and Jefferson monument come down. Like in college, that was like the point to heap as much contempt as you can towards that, so I'm a reactionary. So that kind of, but it is fascinating. Yeah, like Antifa or the professional rioters or whatever. This is just a whole different element. And some of the people who've been caught, like two people who were arrested in New York City, or maybe it's Philadelphia, for torching cop cars. One of them was a lawyer.
Wow.
And one of them owned a professional massage parlor or something like that.
What the hell?
It was a professional masseuse. So normally, you have riots and disruption. It's it's poor black people, and then of course you have like your rich intellectuals, academics. There's the 5% of like the elite who just want to see the country burn. You know what I mean? So they're always rooting for this sort of chaos. But now this is why it's just kind of interesting to me. It's just the number of people who seem to be invested in preserving some bit of the status quo or changing it, like that percentage is going down. Like if it goes down much farther, part of it is to the COVID high school kids. I mean, the people are talking about, you know, the right wingers. Oh my God, this like these guys, the looters, whatever. They don't really bother me. I mean, it bothers me, but it's just like, okay, this is half of this is just fucking high school kids whose parents never should have let them out of the house.
That and homeless. It's a green light for him to rob from a pawn store.
Right.
You know?
Okay. Yeah. I don't know.
Let me ask you this.
Your homeless issue there seems probably bigger than most. I guess it's just so beautiful and sunny. California is definitely the best place.
Oh, Jesus. I mean, yeah. Do you want to live in Southern California where you can literally wear shorts every day, or Chicago? You know?
Right. And then some of the other warm climates are probably more conservative, like, you know, along the, you know, New Orleans or this, you know, the cops will just come up and put you in jail probably with much frequency. They're like in California, they let them build little communities and, you know, basically.
Oh man, they literally set up tents in the center of the city in the park.
Yeah.
Like it's tents, tarps. Like,
but it's just like you said, like the Antifa thing. It's just like these guys had like military strategy for like following where the cops in the city and where are the soft zones, and
wow.
you know, like even like I'm reading like some people like they'll put a few people, you know, fake protest towards a barricade to yell at the cops so other people can go here.
Wow.
And yeah, so I mean,
they got to be communicating via radios and cell phones.
Well, not only that, like right away they have all sorts of bottled water, and like they were setting up stands right away for the people who are going to do battle, like eye wash station.
Wow.
When you get, you know what I mean? So it's a different thing. And if you look at like Portland, Seattle, like a lot of the Antifa guys are like, you see them get arrested are like, oh, works for Apple. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, it's not just homeless people for sure. There are a lot of upper middle class people, and like this autonomous zone in Portland. Did you see that?
No.
How much you're watching the news? Oh, wow, Steve. They basically blocked off a whole zone where cops can't come in. Police free zone. Part of the city they've taken over. Basically, yeah. I don't know. I'm kind of curious how it'll work out there. No, of course, like somebody was killed in there supposedly, and they didn't let the police come in. They just like dragged the body out in front of their barricades they built.
Wow.
But they knew exactly where they were going. And yeah, man, it's just this country's fucked, basically, I guess is what I'm saying. I mean, in terms of obviously, did you see the video of George Floyd getting murdered?
Yeah.
It's pretty horrible to watch.
It's a tough one to watch. Yeah.
I mean, and there simply is no defense, especially when he's not moving for 2.5 minutes and you still have your I mean, it's not even, and the cop's expression was just, I mean, this is why when someone says institutional racism, you feel like this is the police department it developed, like the cops are watching him. He doesn't care. You know, he's just got his hand in his pocket looking ahead. I don't know what he thought he could get away or just didn't. Yeah, it's just, it's just appalling. So like if somehow they find some rich, whatever, some white town in Minnesota that are just really, if somehow they're going to come up with some legal defense, self-defense thing. Somehow the guy was a threat. Oh, look here, you can see his hand. He's reaching in his back pocket. I don't know. But if he's found not guilty, Steve, I can't really come up with a convincing reason for people not to burn down their cities. You know what I mean? That would be such a miscarriage. That would be so outrageous. It's like, okay, new Black Panther Party, kill away.
Have you seen the Daniel Shaver video?
No, or maybe I have. I don't recognize it. What is it?
Yeah, I think it was in 2016. If you just Google Daniel Shaver hallway, this guy.
Oh yeah, it was a white guy killed, right? And that was in a hotel or something.
In a hotel, he was crawling down the aisle, and they just fucking lit him up with an AR-15. It was.
Yeah, I mean,
it was just as disturbing as the Floyd video. I was like, wow.
Yeah, these guys, they want to use their guns, man. I mean, that's the bottom line.
In that one, I think it was the supervisor's fault, because
Well,
the guy that shot him was a younger kid, and the way the supervisor was talking was just building and escalating the situation, when you really didn't. You had a drunk guy crawling down the hallway who was obviously unarmed. you know,
yeah, some of them they're looking. Did you see the
wow.
one? There's this one shooting that was just ridiculous. Again, it's caught on video. I want to say it's a Miami black guy. He worked as I think a nursing aide at a place for disabled or like mentally ill people. So he went out with like I don't know what's the word for retarded these days. Or some
Special?
sort of yeah, but he was out on the street, like playing with toys with the guy or something in the street, where the cops showed up and they were like, he's laying on the ground on his belly, arms up, explaining what he's doing there, and like I don't know, somehow they fired a shot and like hit him in the ass or something. And it was just outrageous. So somehow, yeah, I don't know. Things need to be done. Like the idea that these cities are going to like just get rid of 90% of their cops and run, like, seems just outrageous to me. Of course, I think like if I was a mayor, like the one group I would never instinctively be wanting to cut expenses for would be police.
Right.
But maybe you got to do something to. And again, the Floyd video, the fact that these other cops were watching, like that's just a total breakdown of the system there. Like these guys should be the first ones to stop that. But it never works that way. Like they're saying, well, if he's a supervisor, they're not supposed to, you know what I mean? I don't know. Anyways.
Oh, he was the leader?
I don't know. I think I heard someone making that as like, this guy was,
he was the sergeant or something.
He was the oldest. The other three cops look younger for sure.
So they're following.
I think he'd been a cop for longer.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So this, hopefully, that's got to be the major thing that changes here. I'm not really. If you watch Carl, if someone wants to get on Twitter and follow Carlos, he has some more. Like I kind of know what qualified immunity is. This is like, I'm ready to the point, anyways, where it's not taking place in the street, where actually like politicians are discussing the matters, like over laws, and not just pulling statues down and expressing a general contempt.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, something needs to be done. I don't know what I mean. Like I said, the problem with the video, I mean, obviously the guy killing is the fact that there's three other cops sitting there watching someone get murdered, and because there's no other way to describe it.
Yeah, and he was
they're not doing anything.
I don't know. Like I'm trying to, like, was he so amped up that he didn't realize that he was sitting on the guy's neck for 4 minutes? Like,
it looked like just the opposite. He wasn't amped up. He was just a man. Yeah. Remember the line in Hannibal Lecter is like talking about how he chewed off a nurse's tongue. And he's like, his pulse never got above 85.
Yeah. Yes.
There's no way. This was not an adrenaline rush for him. I don't think. I don't know. It was just.
I don't know.
But like I said, yes, some of the politics are coming out of here, and of course the media. I mean, maybe my angry white male is maybe coming out, but like some of the. I don't like when I'm watching things where like the words don't match the images. You know what I mean? Like watching the Iraq War and then seeing Bush come on explaining like how we're going about this and how it's kind of all going according to plan or something. My stomach would turn. I mean, they would actually quote his own general. General Listener said you need, like there was talk of the surge moving from like 120,000 troops to 180, and he had quoted some general as like, I couldn't stop this rebellion with 1 million troops. So they asked Bush, well, we got to remain optimistic. Some of our, absolutely nothing, had no, So that obviously Trump at his inauguration, I didn't realize this. I just read this. Not only, the part where he claimed that it was like biggest inauguration ever, and there's photographs to prove the exact opposite. I mean, this is the first words out of his press secretary comes out. This was the biggest secretary, He also on that day was talking about how God must have wanted it out because on this rainy day, a blast of sunshine came out when he started to give his inaugural or some kind of horse shit. And there's one journalist who's writing, I was actually standing 25 feet away from the man, drenched in rain as it poured down on me.
That's great.
So Trump would be obviously the example, but you know, obviously, yeah, I don't know, like the OJ Simpson trial, you were too young for that. It's like, you know, listening to the commentaries, it was like, you say tomato, I say tomato. We don't really know anything. Let's just try not to pay attention. I'm like,
Oh, I
well,
remember that.
like, I
Cato,
don't
all
know.
that.
I don't know. Ron Goldman's blood in OJ's car. I mean, okay, it's either
Glove
a
didn't fit.
it's either a massive conspiracy, which cannot be carried out by two cops because it goes in every direction, or he's guilty and the people at CNN are just fucking dopes for not asking the right question. So anyways, I kind of feel like the same thing here. Like the word peaceful was used so frequently. They wanted to establish that this was, we need to listen to everybody because, and yeah, there was that element, but there's also the other element, which is seeing it. There's actually, I don't know if you've seen this, a video of a reporter on the set on this, it might have been CNN, might have been MSNBC, talking about, as you can see, everyone's out here is peaceful. And literally a half a second later, a bottle like flies by his head.
Oh, it's great.
And he's like, that was done without malice. The man who threw the bottle was not angry. I mean,
He just tripped.
yeah, and some of these, like, they're talking about how the peaceful protests are. The reason it slowed down, first of all, is because these cities finally started letting the cops do their jobs.
Yeah.
You had to put the cops in the business districts, or every single business gets burned down.
Yeah.
So finally, that's what kind of pushed it towards peaceful as much as anything else, I think. So, well, CNN, did you see CNN was almost broken into?
No, I didn't see that.
Bashing the windows, and there's a mob outside, and there was cops that kept them from coming in.
Wow.
That would have been maybe my favorite moment in my life, to watch CNN. What are they explaining? How do they explain this? The peaceful demonstrators. Like the building. Well, there was also expression. It was funny, as a fireman, you'd say, like, there was one headline. It's like, fires breaking out around town. It's not people setting fires. It was just like they're breaking out spontaneously in 57 locations within an hour.
It just happens to be
Yeah,
12
it was
garage
just,
fires at
yeah.
the same
So
time.
anyways, I mean, maybe this is not the main issue I shouldn't be focused on, but some of it, like, and again, places they're just talking about, oh, you can see another peaceful demonstration, and if you listen to it, it's a bunch of people marching in line very peacefully saying, what do we want? Dead cops.
Wow.
And like, there's no comment on, yeah, the people are very frustrated, as you can see here. There's no. So, I mean, obviously, it's like I said, I don't even hold out some of the thuggery, because it's expected. You know what I mean? Like, right after this happens, you're like, okay, how many cops are going to be killed? You know, how many, once the looting starts, right after Minneapolis. I mean, there's just stuff that it was just a new level of, like, organization, though. They actually burned down a police station. There's video of police fleeing the police station in Minnesota, in the district or whatever, where George Floyd was killed. Like, physically sprinting out of there. You know, they would be murdered.
Yeah.
I don't know, Steve. I can't, but it is, yeah, beyond. I mean, you got to worry about it personally, but it's kind of an interesting how to be a father during this time. I guess you got to be. My son is like very public, civic minded, caring about America. Just, you know, it's kind of stuff. I mean, part of it's school. Like, he'll always tell me, do not let your car idle. Turn it off if you're, that's bad for the environment, kind of stuff, you know.
Okay.
And then his mom tried to, and he's always been like, you know, liberal, like Bernie Sanders kind of, you know, like, I think I told you, after Trump was elected, one of my funniest things ever, my son was like 7 years old at the time or something. And he's like, Dad, how long till Trump is actually president? And, you know, there's of course a gap. I'm like, well, you know, about a month. It's like, shouldn't we start the rebellion now while we have the upper hand? So he was rooting for coup d'etat. Anyways, but now he's like, I've let him watch a lot of the news, and he's just befuddled here. Like, I don't know why they're coming to the building. There's that hate, you know, why is everybody so angry? These, I kind of want to just give him my advice and my own mantras. Just try not to give a shit. Just find a way to make a living and enjoy your friends and life, because, you know.
Yeah.
You know, I know that's a dark view of things, but I don't see how things get better. But you never know. Maybe the millennials, Steve, can save us. They're definitely much more. They're focusing on the diversity of the crowds, which is interesting. I guess it's true. I mean, certainly white kids today you'd think would be less racist because they just grown up around more non-white kids, and so, but they seem to just hate the same people.
Huh.
Like this is the step forward. You know what I mean? I mean, on a certain level, I understand racial justice and race. They're better equipped for that, but I don't know. They're also better equipped for just annihilation.
Huh.
This is my view of some of these faces I see um,
Do you
running around there.
think? Do you think? And there's no way to know, but let's say COVID didn't happen. Okay, life has just been the last 3-4 months normal, like it has been our whole lives, and then Floyd happened. Would the reaction have been exactly the same, less, or more?
There would have been. It wouldn't be. What was amazing for me is usually there's like 2 or 3 days of like rioting, and and then it just kind of slows down, and obviously,
Yeah,
people remain outraged, but it goes through the courts. So the fact that this went out for weeks is definitely COVID related.
I think
Like
so too.
people don't have people are you can pay people. You're basically paying people to burn shit down because they're getting a nice fat check from the government from whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um. So yeah, like I said, the young people boxed in and like, you know what I mean? You haven't had any activity. So yeah, that's definitely increased the number of, the sustained nature of it. The fact
and
that it went on for a
intensity,
while.
and yeah,
Yeah. I mean, again, some of the other stuff, like this shit wasn't normally you just associate riots with like big cities. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Internally, this is just a different. So like in every state, like there's literally like buildings burning in like Fargo.
Huh.
Do you know what I mean? Like in
Wow.
all these. So yeah, man, whatever. We'll see. We'll see what happens there. But hopefully some good comes of this. I don't know. But yeah, if it comes to better policing. But on the other hand, you could also say, well, it's like all this defund the police. There's a lot of people sitting saying, well, this is why we have lots of policemen just for this shit. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? People getting beaten and attacked in the streets and whatever. But it doesn't make you less of a fan of the police just watching the riots anyways. But there's obviously now a couple other police have been arrested for murder since
Really?
during the protests.
Oh, like they
Well,
should have.
arrested, fired, arrested. There's one who was just arrested. Maybe there's more than one in an Atlanta shooting. I mean, this is one of the different things where 5 years ago, I don't think many people would have too sympathy for the guy. He was called for a car was stopped in a Wendy's drive-through or something like that.
Mhm.
The Wendy's was burned down the next day too, which of course has nothing to do with anything. You know what I mean? The story. So the police were called. The guy's like passed out. He's drunk as hell, and the cops. We got to give you a sobriety test. I mean, I watched the video. I can't remember, but basically they told him. Then he announced he's getting arrested for DUI. I think. And immediately starts fighting with the cop. The cops grabbed the taser, and he managed to get the taser out. Big brawl, and he was shooting the taser at him. And then he was shot in the back though. He was finally breaking free, and he made it 10 feet away from them, and he was shot and murdered. Or killed. So obviously this guy was a criminal. I mean, if the cops didn't come, he might have left Wendy's with a burger and been driving shit-faced drunk on the highway.
Yeah, and kill kids or something.
Certainly need to be incarcerated. So like these people are like, well, technically he wasn't drunk and driving. The car was stopped and da da da. The cops. You need
What? So the car just magically appeared there? He got shit-faced drunk sitting in the window. Like, come on.
He needs to be arrested. Well, no, but a lot of these ideas of defund the police is a lot of like this would be a guy who'd said, well, he's an addict. He doesn't need a police station. He needs to dry out. Well, maybe he doesn't like staying in dry out facilities. He likes driving around drunk. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
So the cop was thrown in jail because he shouldn't have shot him in the back.
he's facing first degree murder.
Oh wow.
He could get the death penalty, I think. You know what I mean? Or let that. So, a lot of white cop, black police. So a lot of cops are the blue flu. You've ever heard that expression?
No.
Blue flu is when a lot of cops call out at once for sick. At one
Okay.
time.
Okay.
So, yeah, a lot of these, like Atlanta, there's because this happened in Atlanta. A lot of people were outraged that the cop was arrested for this when he's basically involved in a life or death struggle here. You don't know if this guy knocks him down, he might grab your gun too. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah,
the
that's the
blue
part
flu,
where like, okay, he just tried to kill a cop. What's he going to do around the corner to the little old lady walking
right?
down the street? You know what I
Right.
mean?
Well, they're
I don't
saying,
know. Like,
well,
is it really that bad to drop the guy? Like, he tried to kill a policeman. What the hell's he going to do to a little
yeah.
kid?
Well, I mean, again, like a Black Lives Matter activist would probably say he's terrified of the police as a black man, and he's trying to break free.
I don't think it matters that he's black. He's just a human that tried to kill a cop. Like,
Right. Well, yeah. I mean,
I don't even care if it's a
describing
chick, you know,
yeah.
like, what are you doing? You know, like, what, really? You think it's a good idea to wrestle with two guys with guns and try to tase them? That seems like a bad idea. You know, a guy that does a decision like that, who knows what he's going to do to the mom pushing her kid down the street in a stroller?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean,
Maybe
I
I'm
don't
fucked
know.
up.
Like,
Does
like I
that
said,
seem?
there's going to make the argument that he was not trying to kill the cops. He was just a scared criminal trying to get away. And he, the taser was just, he was not the, I mean, you would not get a first degree murder charge out of me there. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I wouldn't either. Like,
you get fired if you shoot, but I mean, shooting someone in the back, does the preamble matter? I mean, I don't know. But quickly with the blue flu, it's funny how like reaction, like there's a lot of, I follow Twitter, a lot of like the right wingers are like, go ahead, defund the police. Like they want to just see Minneapolis burn forever.
well,
Do you know what I mean? So it's
yeah.
like, okay, so there's police, not that the police are, I mean, this is what happened in New York City. The police department hates de Blasio because he's always like, he's just a preening, sanctimonious liberal, always talking about police and but anyways, the police were they're saying the police were just kind of being very passive aggressive when like on these prime stores in Manhattan were getting burned. There were cops around who weren't gonna, you want me to go in there? I ain't going. You're telling me I can't use pepper spray or I can't do this, I can't do that. I ain't putting my life on the line unless I can protect myself properly and go ahead. So there were cops letting it. So there's going to be a lot of that going. And a lot of people have pointed out that sort of low intensity urban policing means a very high homicide rate is going to increase. And that's going to mean more, young black men dead. But
I don't blame the cops at all. Like, I can't use my gun. I can't use pepper spray. Fuck that. I'll sit over here. You
right.
Want me to go in there completely disadvantaged? No,
obviously,
I'm good.
I mean,
and if I make one mistake, then I get thrown in jail. Fuck that. A cop in jail? Oh man, that is not what you want to be.
No.
Jesus.
Yeah. I remember someone saying cops aren't afraid of getting killed. They're afraid of being in prison. Because I mean, this is what I think there is kind of a criminal mentality in men and wishing to dominate, maybe. I don't know, but some of the cops, it's just a teamwork. Like there's one in Buffalo. Did you see the policeman killed in Buffalo? So of course there's policemen who were killed in Buffalo. I'm pretty sure. I think or shot. I can't remember, but there was also a protester, like a 75-year-old man, and some cop is like telling him to move out of the way, and he's getting his face. The cop just shoved him, and the old guy just fell and cracked his skull. So this guy was immediately fired or whatever, and immediately like half the riot police refused to go to work in Buffalo. And the mayor probably condemning this policeman and not really saying too much about the policeman getting murdered. So, yeah, I don't know. Scary time. It was like 10 years ago. I was actually reading, but it was like maybe 15 years ago in Cincinnati. There was a shooting, unarmed black teenager, but it was one of those things. I guess he was in the middle of a crime, but he was running from it, but he was unarmed, and they shot him in the back, I think. But so great, the police did the passive aggressive thing, kind of like they would just take a little more time to take on calls. And as a policeman, you get a sense, just like you can smell all the different smells. They pretty good sense of, they see 10 guys walking around at night, which is the one who's looking around furtively and maybe going to commit a crime. It's like now they're just driving past this guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're not going to stop and ask questions. And what are you 14-year-olds doing with baseball bats at 5 a.m? It's like, okay, you don't like policemen, this is, so that's going to, I don't know. Yeah, a lot of policemen have quit all across the country, but I don't know. That's a good paying job. It's hard to quit that.
I don't know, man.
I don't know what else you're going to do, but
You can go
so I'm kind of
security
neurotic.
or dog training or something for cops. That's what one of my buddies did. He was a cop, and he started up a business with his dad, training police dogs. Same line of work, but just doesn't have the liability of being a policeman.
Well, yeah, like I said, I don't think they'll be, but this is going to be the issue of the Trump's chance for election. The fact that, you're really setting them up here for a dying economy. A man fucks up the Corona thing, but you got a bunch of people saying kill the cops, and you got some like crazy politician stuff. So yeah, basically cops versus the rioters. You know what I mean? He should have the new numbers in his favor, but no, I think it'll be a very close election anyways. But
I think so.
Trump's ridiculous though, man. I'm sorry that you'd think that we're just talking about me and you like the cops Trump should be, but he makes some effort to be the man to speak to everyone here. It's probably impossible at this point. The words "the American people" seem sort of anachronistic, that you can't. But did you see I guess you're just not watching the news, Steve. You're not. There's the one thing that got the highest Trump. There was big rally. Again, if you want to talk about the police, I mean, the massive crowds the first night trying to like break through barriers, but like 30 Capitol Police were injured. Basically, like the White House would have burned down if you didn't have a lot of police there. Like this, I mean, this is. But a few nights later, there's a protest, and Trump has the police go out there and clear a city block. Even though people are outraged, but it is a peaceful protest. There's not like weapons, stuff getting fired at the police.
Yeah.
So he sends the tear gas, the what are these called? Those the little bombs, the shock bombs.
Flashbangs.
Flashbangs. So he clears the block, and people are getting shot in the face with rubber bullets or whatever, and And then he just comes out with his Secret Service and walks across this clean block to go to the church next door. And the national church had been burned the night before. I mean, it's just, you could tell, like, this is like coordinated. Let's get the most symbolic gestures. Anyways, Trump walks around the street, just holds up a Bible and says, I don't even says anything. "We will survive," and then walks back to the White House. So basically, they are saying Trump just scattered a protest just for a photo op, which is exactly what it was. Why he's holding a Bible is not a religion, he's saying that this is, I don't know.
Interesting.
It's hard to, he's such a.
You got to read that book, Mike. It's Win Bigly, and it's a guy describing how he won the election. So I have a very different perspective of the man now, and I look at him as one of the greatest persuaders and influencers of our time. So there was some key strategy right here of him doing this, securing votes somehow. Somehow there's an angle of what you just described that I don't see, and probably 99% of the public doesn't see. But there was definitely a strategy behind it. Even all the words of him claiming that this was the biggest what was his I'm forgetting the political term for it, but his big rally. What
Which one? I'm sorry.
The big rally that he just had, that he said it was the
Tulsa?
biggest. Yeah,
I didn't hear any of the audio of that yet, or see what that was about, actually.
Okay, well, I could see him saying that, even though it wasn't, because maybe 80% of that filters out and people believe that it was the biggest one. And the other 20% are like, well, hang on, if we check the data here, this is one of the smallest. But it doesn't matter at that point, because it's already gone, and now he's on to the next thing with his walking out.
Somehow, obviously, it just... he's white working class, middle class alienation has been growing for years. There's some communities down in the Southwest there that are practically run by Mexican gangs now. You know what I mean? There's a lot of mess around so, I mean, this is not a seminal observation. Like, the Republican Party's wins. white working class America voted Democrat for a long time. I mean, they never really turned against the New Deal and Frank Roosevelt, but what started happening is, Vietnam and basically white working class um, had started voting Republican, and that's how they kind of won elections. But then the Republican, they didn't want to say that. So George Bush, they're trying to say, well, we're gurus of the economy, and they're basically trying to sound like the people who are competent with financial matters and um, foreign policy. And then we saw Bush and John McCain send us into like the worst, terrible war ever. So foreign policy, we have no trust of them. And financially, watching after the 2008 crisis, Bush tried to explain things was just embarrassing. So my long explanation, what you have left is just a bunch of pissed off white people. That's not fair. I mean, there's people who have very good reasons. And some of the reaction against some of the things that are going to happen are just, but he brought a whole bunch of people into the voting process who haven't been there for a while. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was good. And yeah, I don't know. People don't like Hollywood. People don't like the media. The fact that he was not putting gentle jabs, but just telling these people they're scumbags and stuff. Yeah, the Twitter account everybody thought was just so outrageous was a smash success. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a huge influencing power right there.
Yeah, the fact that just the contempt for the media.
1% of the nation's population follows the guy. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's not. I mean, he probably doesn't have any followers as Justin Bieber. I don't know, but
and the thing is he's able to reach out to the whole U.S. through that Twitter account, even though he's only has 1% of the population following him. I mean, every third tweet gets broadcast on every news network. And even if it's something bad, it's still news about him, and it gets his name out there more than the other guy.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, he's just for a large majority of the population who's just felt like this country isn't mine anymore. This is what he shares their view. You know what I mean? Genuine contempt for the deep state, I guess. But yeah, it's hard. I don't know. I'd be curious. I didn't think he'd win the election. Obviously, nobody did. So
no,
he knew something that there was people who said he never actually wanted to win the election. Like there's all this little backstory. Probably none of it's like his wife was crying. She didn't want to be first lady. She kind of stays out the she didn't think he'd win either. Like she was horrified that she'd have to be first lady now. But
I don't think he thought he would win. His reaction, his reaction when he came out and did the congratulatory speech, he just looked like his eyes were the size of saucers. Like, holy shit, I did it.
Well, the whole thing when for the first time looked like he had a chance in the election, where his polls numbers were starting to get close to Hillary. That was right around the time that the Access Hollywood tape came out, where grabbing by the pussy kind of stuff. And I thought to myself, this is over.
Yep.
And then when he just then when I asked about it, did you see the one debate he showed up with all the women who had accused Clinton of sex crimes?
No, I didn't see this.
I mean, it was just a show. I think Paula Jones was there. Who is, I can't remember. Juanita Broderick was a woman who claimed that she got raped by Clinton back when she was campaigning him for, 40 years ago. And there's other. So it's just he admits nothing, tells everyone they're an idiot for talking, and I'm like, okay, he doesn't want to win the election. He's trying to make it clear that he's not emotionally capable of being president of the United States. And no, he his supporters just loved him taking a steaming dump on Democrats. And remember his campaign statement, like everything was true. His campaign statement, he's like, I could murder someone in the middle of Fifth Avenue and still become president. Do you remember that line?
No, I don't.
I mean, he probably could.
That's incredible. I think he always wanted to win. I mean, look at his track record. He played the president in several movies, one of which I can think of was Back to the Future. Not a big part or anything, just a little 30-second blip. But I think he's been planting this idea in our minds for decades. And I don't think he thought he was going to win, but when he did, he was very surprised. But probably a little surreal, you know what I mean? Like he's visualized this in his life for so long, and now it happened. But I think he always wanted to win.
He was always there's a documentary I watch on Netflix about Roger Stone, who's like an infamous or famous political advisor from Nixon to Trump. You know, he's always in there, and gets into like he's been really like Trump and saw something in Trump. I mean, this guy kind of sniffs people out. So for like years and years, he was trying to get this guy to run for president, and I guess finally succeed. A lot of people say what the propulsion that got him finally to want to run was. Did you see the comedy roast? I don't know, the national press. I forget what it is.
Oh, was it the comedy roast of Trump?
No, it wasn't I'm sorry. It wasn't a roast. It was something where the media and the politicians get together, but they always invite comedians. And there's one guy. It's funny because I think it's Seth Meyers. People get on. He gets asked this question if he gets interviewed. Do you take responsibility for President Trump? Because he was mocking him so cruelly, and you could turn to the audience. Trump was there. He was angry. Like this is. Yeah, I mean, some of it psychologically. You can call him an asshole or a scumbag, and it just doesn't bother him at all. But if you mock him as something absurd, he's angry.
That's his trigger point.
Yeah. So Seth Meyers is like the one line I remember, something like, some people are. Trump says he might run for the Republican Party. Well, some people are surprised because thought he'd run as a Democrat, or thought. He's like, I'm surprised because I thought he'd run as a joke, or I forget. I forget. And like Trump threw, and then Obama came up and threw a couple things in Trump's direction too. And like, you can just say, like a lot of people say this was it. It's a very plausible story. This was the day he's like, I will be president. Fuck these people.
Yeah.
So what does this book claim is the fact that he has a narcissistic personality disorder an asset? It's kind of a loaded question, but
yeah, it's a loaded question.
I mean, it is confidence. The guy who wants it the most often gets it.
Yeah.
I'm always impressed with, like, women to get men, you got to be attractive, right? Maybe we're shallow. Maybe women, there's some weird, vile, unattractive men who just dominate women. Do you know what I mean? They get just out of willpower and confidence, and listen, should be grateful to be in my I'm not sure if I don't know if that's analogous.
I know what you're talking about.
Like, yeah.
You're like, how does this guy get that girl? He's just hideous. Not a nice guy.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, inevitably I don't even know if I'm a nice guy, but if you talk to women about like the love of their life, like 9 out of 10 times, it sounds like just the definition of a man who doesn't give a fuck about anybody.
Yeah.
Like that is the greatest, if you want to get a lot of pussy, that is the greatest asset you could have. You dislike women, what I mean? Or not to dislike women, but you know what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying.
To promise them absolutely nothing emotionally, so they're fighting for it, living with that anxiety. But I don't know, man. I'm just, yeah. I mean, this is why I want to get my son not to care what's going on out there, which is terrible. But I was always so like patriotic and invested. Like it's frustrating. And like the Trump, quickly, I just saw another documentary on Jeffrey Epstein on ESPN. You know who he is?
Yeah, I saw the documentary on Netflix. I don't know if it's the same one.
That's an example, I guess, what you'd call white privilege or rich privilege. Just the fact that this guy was getting away with this for years, and they couldn't, he got some slap on the wrist because he gave to the DA or whatever. I mean, it just, right.
That was a pretty incredible story.
Yeah,
like, shit. How did this go on for decades and just nothing,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if anyone needs that money, Steve. I don't know. I know you agree to earn it. I mean, should there be a cap, 20 billion? Or does that stifle economic growth? Because the guy with 20 billion wants 40 billion. He's creating jobs and innovation. And you know what I mean? What is your opinion on that?
Limit what to 20 billion?
How much money you can earn at what point, at which, well, obviously there's already people there's a higher tax bracket, 40%, whatever, for people over 100K, right? I don't know where that's at. And,
so how would you stop people from earning more than that? You just say anything beyond 20 billion just goes to the government?
Anything or 80-90% taxation for, you know what I mean?
Oh, for anything over 20
well,
billion?
This is something that's been in the news. This isn't something I'm just coming up with. This is, this is Bernie Sanders, socialist, there's got to be a ceiling to some point.
Oh, I don't think so.
I didn't
I
think.
don't think you can do that. We wouldn't have Amazon. Do you really want to not have Amazon? I like Amazon. It's fucking convenient as shit. I literally push a button and 2 days later, whatever I asked for shows up at
Well,
my door.
Amazon
Put a
is
ceiling on that and you don't get that. I think
it's
having things like that is amazing because you get my computer I'm staring at right now, that wouldn't have happened without Bill Gates, and you put a ceiling on that, and what's his motivation? I think they'd probably figure out another
Bill
way around
Gates
it.
didn't start off. I'm sure Bill Gates was like, to extent he was like, my God, I'd love to be worth 20 million once a year. So when he gets 20 billion, can't we say thank you very much for the technology? But yeah, I mean, I guess it's not plausible, but it is kind of ridiculous that
I think the richest would. There's a reason they're good at the game. You know what I mean? They would figure a way around that by maybe opening up a second company that's somehow supporting the first and get that one up to 20 bill and then move on to the third. But I don't know. Most of the tax laws are, they're written by the rich. And so if you learn to play them as good as you can, then that's essentially the game.
Yeah, the IRS had like a special branch. I forget, they had like a little nickname for it, the Gold Crew, basically to look super, super, super hard at the tax cheats, like Trump, who hasn't paid taxes and who owes like 300 million in taxes or whatever it is. And Trump got rid of that group. He ended that program, whatever it is, in the IRS that looks specifically trying to basically, get the maximum amount of money from the rich and make sure they're not going through loopholes and cheating and stuff. So Trump got rid of that. So yeah, his populism is, yeah, it's amazing so many people feel engaged by him because, he's the people he actually cares about is like 4 people, a couple of his billionaire buddies and his, the one daughter he wants to bang, I guess. I guess I can't blame him there, but Trump is actually the most likable member of that family. Like if you, I mean, he's got more stories to tell, but if you wanted to like say like one Trump has to come here and stay at my place for 2 weeks, like Ivanka, I'm gonna throw her ass out the window
in about 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, she's gonna be complaining this plate's not clean, this, that, the other thing. I'm just, oh, look at sunny day out there. Sprint behind. The Suns are just dumb as stones. Trump's witty. I don't know, Steve. It's just but yeah, I mean, I think a lot of these billionaires, especially as the populace grows against corporations and them, like they're doing the smart things to half of it is bullshit to look like they're very civic minded and giving. Like Bill Gates, like that was his company had a very poor record of like giving to charity and stuff. But then it came up and he was kind of riding under the radar, but then all of a sudden there was like a congressional hearing to hear about, and a lot of animosity started once he became the richest man in the world. Yeah. And basically there was all these, you could argue, antitrust things. Anytime someone came up with a technology that could challenge this or that, they just go off and throw $1 million towards them and,
buy it.
So it was at that point that the Bill Gates Foundation began. It seriously was timed around the same time that he was getting. So, now he gives a good deal of his money away. So I guess
I think most rich people do. I think it's rare that you have one who's wealthy that doesn't.
No, this started with Jeffrey Epstein
in the news the most.
Those
are the ones that they make the documentaries on, like Epstein. They don't make the documentary on the guy that died worth $2.5 billion and set up a foundation for his favorite charity. That just doesn't get reported on. You know what I mean? But I think that's the vast majority of them. The more I meet, the more I'm finding that seems to be the case, at least from the ones that I've met. I think, but the ones that make the news and the ones that are, controversial are the assholes that keep it all themselves and don't fucking give it, share what they've learned.
Share what they've learned.
Well, share the wealth, I guess, maybe.
Right. I don't know, Steve. Yeah, we're not going to, I mean, again, I'm fixated on the idea of universal basic income I think rather than getting a 90% tax though, like $1,000 a month, like a lot of people are saying, oh, look how we survived COVID. It's good. The economy bounced back a little bit. We're going to go back to work. And the reason things didn't go totally to hell is because of the COVID relief and a higher level of employment, if you ask me.
Oh, okay.
For the corporate types, they couldn't sit back and because unemployment's just not going to do it. There's people who already can't barely pay their bills as it is. So if they get whatever 75% of their things, so kind of everybody for a little while was happy with that. Of course, a lot of people now don't really want to go back to work. I know a lot of the casino people didn't. They would have rather had another month or two with them setting that up. But when they call you back, you got to take it or you get fired. But they're making just as much not working as working.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that I don't know, Steve. Whenever I give like just even a stirring of socialist thought, you're in such a panic. I hate to. It's a 12-alarm fire. Whenever
just to put that in perspective, I've never been to a fire that's more than 3 alarms.
Right.
So that would be a hell of a.
I mean, Bill Gates. Some of these guys just ain't that bright either, though. I mean, have you ever seen Mark Cuban get interviewed?
Oh, I watch him on Shark Tank all the time.
Okay, eBay was a good idea, but he's not a complicated man, if you ask me. I don't know, but whatever. I guess I'm saying luck is a factor here somewhat too.
I think some of it is. I think that I also think a big part of it too is that, and what sometimes gets classified as luck is that they just have a mindset of they're always looking for opportunities. And so they'll see that and jump on it. And in, everyone else's mind that never would have seen that opportunity because they weren't trained to look for it, or they didn't have their mind open to it, it gets classified as luck. But there is a degree of luck. I mean, like I'm learning that, especially with the, poker's taught me that. And the stocks certainly have I could have 3 very similar companies, all in the same field, all about the same evaluation, and all about the same bargain as far as their relative stock price to what it, should be worth. And fucking 2 of them, one of them goes up, one of them goes sideways, doesn't make any money, and the other one goes down. And it's like, some of that is a degree of luck. I mean, sometimes you get lucky and all 3 hit, but that's kind of rare. But yeah, I think there is a degree of luck, but I think these people have trained their minds to see opportunities in a way that you and I wouldn't.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I'm sure you've studied like the person. Like I have a couple friends who are worth millions and millions of dollars. I told you about the guy who I mean, I lived with him a couple of years. Beyond Meat. Yes. Yeah, I mean, he's worth like 300 or 400 million.
That's awesome.
He would be the innovator type, someone who's driven for, a lot of it was ethical for him. He loves animals, horrified at what happens in, people who butcher animals. But that was not something that was really on the map there. The Beyond Meat. I mean, there was like your little veggie patties, but he was trying to duplicate. So he spent every dollar he had and worked his ass off, I know, for this. Yeah. And, saw something that no one else saw. So he deserves. But on the other hand, the 2 is kind of funny because I always, Steve, I got a lot of love as a child. I assumed I was going places. This could be a whole episode on its own because now I'm kind of, when the dreamer stops dreaming, man, that's not good. But my dreams are so ridiculous, it's time to stop them. But anyways, I always thought intelligence, whatever, talent was just going to take me somewhere. But the 2 guys from my high school who have done the best, I know one guy's he's like friends with like NBA players. He's like the big wig at a sports agency.
Oh, cool.
And he was explaining to me, I wouldn't be surprised if he's worth 100 million because he's explaining, and he stopped kind of dealing with the athletes, and now he just deals with owners, like brokering deals for sponsorship.
Wow.
So like if a new stadium gets built, I think he was telling me, I forget how it was, but like he was involved in the name of the stadium. Like some, Qualcomm, some of these stadiums, want a corporate sponsor,
calling Motorola and telling them we'll do it for 100 mil
So he's the big, but my point is, he's just a friendly guy. People love being around him. That's not that he's all he has. I'm sure he works hard, he's a smart guy, whatever. But him and the other guy, but my point is he was class president, senior class president, and the guy who was student council president, the two guys you'd say were the most likable and charismatic, where if they're at a party, you're happy kind of thing, you know.
Yeah.
Those are the guys who made the most money.
Hmm.
I don't know how my other friend, like I said, I got the one guy who's the sports agent, and the other guy, I just know he's from what he's like, I saw him at the high school reunion. He's like, well, I'm retired. I still do a couple things. I own a restaurant here and there, you know.
Yeah.
Like right away, I'm like, okay, this sounds like 100 million to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, he owns, so yeah, I guess there's the innovator, and then there's the person who's just really positive and has a place. And like you said, probably understands opportunity better than other people, you know, knows who the one person in the room who you most want to seduce with your charm, like they would probably sniff that out right away. You know, the person who can help me the most, maybe, you know what I mean? So they're genuinely like people, but also alive to opportunity. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to be a billionaire, Steve. I want, you know, I want to live exactly the life I have, other than without the economic anxiety and an ability to travel, and to have some money for my son to go to college, because that ain't fucking happening. But
Yeah, I didn't get any money from my folks to go to college. I remember I got a scholarship, and I think that's what spurred this was, you know, the scholarship would do through the show is, I remember getting that and being stoked because I'm like, wow, my whole first semester is paid for, you know, and that was amazing. I just had to write a paper and it was done. And I also remember from that experience too, there was a lot of scholarships that were specifically designed and only people could apply depending on what their race was. And I just remember being like, oh, what the fuck? Like, you mean 90% of the people in this room can't put in for it just because they were born like the wrong race? Like, that seems wrong, you know? And so I've never done that with this one. Like I sometimes I get the essays and I can't even tell if it's a boy or a girl just by the name, you know, it's kind of a general neutral, gender neutral name.
right.
But it doesn't matter to me. I don't care if it's a guy or a girl. And then certainly don't give a shit what race they are. I just want the kid that is the most passionate and put the most work into the essay and who is, you know, who's, I think probably has the most likelihood of success. And
Right. Well,
why did I get off on
you're
this
talking
tangent?
about affirmative action there, Steve. Yeah. No, it's not
Essentially, yeah. I like they're putting
a
affirmative action into a scholarship. You know, I think
what they did.
it's, I guess it's their money. They have the right to do whatever the hell they want, but it just seems wrong to me.
Well, some of it, you know, California banned affirmative act. I mean, I forget the statistic. It could be wrong. It was like a student that has, let's say, a B+ average and a SAT of 1300. They said this. Basically, they showed like if you're Asian, your chances of getting into Berkeley were about 1%.
Okay.
Where if you're Black, it was like 70%. I mean, it was a massive discrepancy. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But I think you need like affirmative action, like the police department and stuff. I think, don't you? Especially in these like Black. I mean,
I do think that
I think
you're onto
there's
something.
certain. I think there's certain. I mean, I hate to be like, sound there. A lot of part of America doesn't really matter who's doing it. Like there's, you can put idiot like. There shouldn't be affirmative action for doctors or engineers or pilots.
Okay.
People who are putting their life, who you simply want the best.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean? But for most things, I don't know. College is probably, yeah, college just set aside. Yeah, it's frustrating though. I mean, for sure. I mean,
I think you might be slightly onto something with the affirmative action with the cops and the firemen probably too. I think it's important for and it's probably just because I'm in the business, but I think it's important, especially the town I work in. It's a heavily populated Latin, Filipino, Asian. Yeah, that's mostly it. Mostly Latin, and most of the Latin are from Mexico. And then of the Asian community, you have a lot of Filipino, and then we have a small Samoan population, and the rest is white and Black. And so I think it's important that you hire police and firemen that understand that culture and can speak the language. You know, if you put a guy into a scenario where it's mostly Mexican population and he does not speak Spanish, he's not going to serve that population as well as a guy that does. He's not going to serve the population as well as a guy that understands what religion background the majority of his people have. You know what I mean? So I
Right.
think you're onto something with the. I think it's important. They may not necessarily have to be the same race, but they damn well better understand the culture and the language of the people that they serve. You know?
Right. Yeah, I mean, some of the stuff is just the affirmative action. This was like a long time ago when I was in college, and I read a book some guy wrote about, I don't know, race relations on college, and just coming up with a lot of anecdotal stuff. Like one of them, what was the story? Basically, someone had written something about internally about admissions process, and he said some of these individuals who are excellent performers, and whoever the supervisor was circled the word individuals and wrote, this can be a code for hatred or something. Basically, you have to satisfy the different groups. That was their job. You know, not to like, you know what I mean? Just
don't piss anyone off, make it as PC as possible.
Well, yeah, you want, quote, individuals attaining your college, but you know, you're looking for the proper medley collection of people too. So I don't know, but yeah, I mean, I don't even like regarding the George Floyd thing. I don't even know if affirmative action. A lot of these, you know, let's be honest, young black guys. George Floyd is not. It's like the fathers on around. They hate the black cops as much as the white cops. Let's put it that way. Just their authority figure, maybe even more, because like, who does this guy think he is? I don't know. You ever see the movie Boys in the Hood?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, the only character we're asked in this movie of gangbangers and everything, that the only character that the director clearly doesn't like was the black police officer who was at the beginning wanted to, you know, talk about killing these young punks or something. So, yeah, I don't know, Steve. How do we get? What was my original question there? I was asking. I can't remember.
I don't know.
Something. Oh, we were talking about college. Yeah. The college I went to is one of the most expensive in the country, and I didn't do anything. Like my mother reminds me of that. It's funny. I was just talking to a college buddy. I want to say he said $68,000 a year
to go to that college.
Yeah.
Jesus.
So back to my son in college, like if you were like, Daddy, I really want to be an architect. Like if he's really driven to do something,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like I've just got to find a way to get him to college. But if it's like one of your typical 19-year-old, hey, what am I going to do with my life? Where his real ambition is to, you know, surf and bang chicks, I'm going to be like, start with a couple classes at the community college and we'll see if this, but hopefully he just got the presidential seal for academic excellence or something. I mean, a lot of people get that, you know, but
so Trump approved.
He was asking if that was Trump's real signature on the thing. And I'm like, probably not. No.
It was a stamp.
Yes, it was a stamp, but
it was a perfect copy of his signature.
But I guess my point is simply properly motivated. He could be like the kid who's valedictorian and gets an academic scholarship. You know, we'll see if I can.
Yeah, I think there's two ways to do it. And, you know, I think student loans is probably the worst because you end up, you know, you take on all that debt. And by the time you graduate college, you've been running in the wrong direction. Now you have to make up that debt with interest, or you can go to community college, pay your way through it, do scholarships, just like this show gives away, and come out the other side with a degree and no debt and the knowledge of all that work experience and life experience while you're doing it. You know, it teaches you dedication and fortitude to pay your own way through college. And it may take you 10 years to become a doctor instead of 7 or 6, but at least when you come out the side, you don't have $250,000 in debt and you haven't been running in the wrong way, you know?
Yeah. Or you could just elect somebody who wants to eliminate all student debt. No, that actually is out there.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah. That's a Bernie Sanders thing. And you know, there's these 4 women of color who are what they call them, the gang.
Okay, now if he did that, is he eliminating school loans as well, or is this process just going to rinse and repeat, and the schools are just out of fucking luck for getting their money?
Everyone gets everyone gets free college. Yeah.
Okay, so there is no student loans after that. The government pays.
But it's not just like his idea. There's other, like I was just going to say, these congresswomen who are kind of like the new far left or whatever you want to call it, but they all support the elimination of college loans. There's a congresswoman from Minnesota, there's one from Michigan, there's one from New York City, and there's one from Massachusetts. We're all for that. So that's something that might be on, there's things that just don't work. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's unfair if you've got the greatest parents in the world that can afford college versus someone else. But problem is there's not a lot of jobs for these. Like, I mean, if you talk to the people at Starbucks, I guarantee you at every Starbucks, there's like at least 2 employees there who have a master's degree in something who couldn't get a job. Right. You know what I mean? Or maybe they just wanted the easier way. But like, if you're a teacher, there's people getting cranked out for education. There's just, there's too many people in school for it. I remember talking to my mother this when she was a middle school principal. She's like, well, process is you interview so many people all the time. She's just, half these people are not going to retire as teachers. There's just not enough jobs. So, I don't know. Free college is the way to go.
I'm listening to a book for the 3rd time. It's called, what is it? Rich Dad's Guide to Investing. This author put out a series of books. He basically grew up with kind of 2 dads in a sense. They weren't both gay dads. One was his real dad. The other was his friend's dad. His real dad was poor, and his friend's dad was rich. And so he learned from his rich dad, and, he wrote several books on the lessons that he learned and how he, built his charities and everything. And one of the things that he was talking about with education is his belief is that education is going to become privatized, and there's not going to be the massive schools like we see today. And he believes that because the schools are getting so expensive, and you basically come out with a degree that may not even really be relevant in the field that you're in with the technology and internet and the information age. I mean, he was mentioning that once you get your degree, if you don't continue learning in 18 months, you're obsolete by the next graduating class. So his belief is that education is going to become a thing that gets privatized. And if you want to learn this subject, you can pay $1,000 and you go through this 2-week course, and then now you understand this subject. And it's just from some random company. And I think we're already starting to see a bit of that. But I thought it was an interesting point of view. I think if people were to privatize education, it might become a lot more efficient. I tell you what, I thought about going and getting my bachelor's, and I started to. I have my associate's, the 2-year degree, and then I was going to get my bachelor's. I get an extra 2.5% at work, and I was going to get it in mathematics. But ironically, I had to take, we'll just say 40 classes, and only 5 or 6 of them were on mathematics. The rest was on freaking whatever history that I don't give a shit about, and some English classes and this and that and the other thing, and to get my degree in mathematics. And after taking 7 classes, 21 units one semester, none of which was anything that I was interested in. This was just shit so that I could go to the college where I could get this degree in mathematics. I'm like, what the hell am I doing? This is not fun.
I've argued over kind of similar to that. It's like we should bring back the notion of apprenticeship, actually. Yeah. Like if you want to be a lawyer, pass the bar exam. But say you've got to pass the bar exam, but also like intern for 2 years at a law office.
Yeah.
An intelligent person that would be probably more profitable than law school. Not as fun as law school. You get to hang out and go to parties, I guess. So
it'd certainly be cheaper, certainly be cheaper.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Just, I guess I used to, I don't know if I forget, Steve, you're not even 40 yet, right? You're 39.
I'm 40.
You are 40. I don't know how far, like, I guess when Ross Perot was running for president, you were like 12 years old or something. Don't remember.
That's probably about right. Yeah.
But he had like all these advertisements. He got, these he used to pay for advertising time or whatever, where he gave these like 30-minute talks, and he was to bring out these charts on the national debt. Like, this is a crisis. We just need to stop.
Mm-hmm.
And it just gets worse and worse. And I'm like, somebody was explaining to me, some financial good was explaining, it really doesn't matter. I don't know why that is. I mean,
the debt doesn't matter.
The debt really doesn't matter.
Hmm.
Like, well, I mean, certainly like the COVID thing, just everyone had to get the money out. You had to just get as much money out there in the economy as possible. I don't know, Steve. Now we're going.
Maybe it's a sense.
I guess my point is that feels like that should be at the center of many discussions over like, well, how do we pay for everyone's college? Where does the money come from? But yeah, more and more, especially because of these gazillionaires out there, you're going to find the population doesn't really care too much. Probably increasingly, I think, as we move forward. And it's definitely going to be a leftward pseudo-socialist turn here. I don't know. Like, well, I don't know, man. I don't know what I'm babbling about here. But yeah, the bachelor's degree is the liberal arts degree is, yeah, I was in the same thing for like, I was going to get a master's degree in English, but I really, I want to be a writer.
Mm-hmm.
But so much of it was like, do I really want to learn another foreign language here? I mean, I guess I passed Spanish in college. I didn't learn the language. And there's all sorts. You had to have like the history of the English language, like you're studying Gaelic or this, you know what I mean?
Oh, wow. Latin and all that
basically,
stuff.
I'm lazy and it was difficult. But a lot of the classes were I just knew I couldn't. What do you call? There's one like Noam Chomsky-esque linguistics class, and you study like the sounds that come out of your throat and
Huh.
Local dialect. And I mean, all this stuff was basically I wanted to do. Yeah. You should be getting a master's in fine arts, which they didn't have a school in my area to do that. Master's in fine arts, you're just writing, I think, but
Okay.
80 and 90% of it was useless or too hard for the small amount of knowledge that I would have received from it, I think would be the best way to describe it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I got something interesting. I talked to, do you remember Merv Harvey? We hung out with him at one of the TPE meetup. Yeah. He does the Post-Flop Poker podcast. I talked to him over the, when was it? I think it was last weekend. And him and his girl, Simone Louise. And we got a very good compliment that I wanted to share. It, Merv is one of our listeners that also listens to a metric shit ton of poker content,
right.
One of which is us,
and he said you guys don't suck. Is that the biggest compliment we can hope for? Hopefully it's something a little more flowery. And
following that, Simone, she likes listening to podcasts with him, but she can't listen to any of the other poker podcasts that he plays except for ours. And she gave us a real good compliment, and I thought it was kind of cool. Nice. I want to share it with you.
There are a lot of good podcasts out there. It's not in my, I mean, I could be just like go to sleep with one talking, like find some high-end poker player talking about hands and try to, absorb a little wisdom there. But there's ones that are good. I got to be honest. I listened only to Clayton Tournament Poker Edge once.
Okay.
It's good. Very, really heavy on the strategy. That's what Clay, so, and good stuff. Clayton's very smart, better player than I am.
Yeah.
But, Andrew's podcast, I listened to like religiously for like the first 6 months, of course. And at certain points, I guess I don't like talking about poker is the thing, but, there's a lot of them out there. They should, if you want to get better at poker, you should be, trying out.
I feel like that too.
I just don't listen to podcasts. I guess. I'm sorry. That was my point.
Yeah. I used to be like Merv and just absorb every single piece of poker content that I could. And I think after about 4 or 5 years, that's kind of dwindled away. And I listen to a lot of audiobooks now. Yeah, a lot of audiobooks. I do listen to other podcasts, but the vast majority of what I'm taking in is at least in the last year or so, is financial books, investing, stuff like that, professional betting. Not necessarily just poker, although probably, I don't know, 20% of the books in my Audible are poker books. But lately, over the last year, I haven't gotten too many. Most of them have just been financial stuff, other stuff I'm interested in. But thank you for listening, Merv.
I like
And,
the. I was going to say quickly. I do like some of the true crime stuff. I like is
the serial ones.
some of the. I didn't listen. I listened to like halfway the first one.
Okay.
The serial podcast. I didn't think it was a crazy whodunit like everybody says it was. Like you can't. I don't know. Did you listen to that one?
You're talking about the first one of the serial?
The Asian girl who's killed. I think it was in a suburb of Washington D.C.
Something Adnan.
Yeah.
What the hell was his name? I can't remember. Yeah.
No.
That was a good one.
Yeah. But I mean, I just didn't think it was a huge mystery. So I was like, I think like people wanted to sell it as I thought he was guilty. Maybe that's just my nature because, the guy he is with fingered him and told exactly everything that happened.
Yeah.
So either that guy is a pathological liar and he did it, which he had no incentive to do, or the other one, but I don't know. But like there's a Charles Manson one out that's pretty interesting. It just takes a different, not really talking about the crimes, but the leading up to the crimes. Charles Manson trying to be a musician and some of the other hangers-ons, how they got to be part of the family kind of thing.
So which one is that? That's not serial, is it?
I think you look up Manson or the Tate murder. I forget. No, it's not serial.
Okay.
But it went into like Dennis Wilson. I don't know if you remember Charles Manson was living with one of the Beach Boys for a while.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's all sorts of fascinating things about the Manson. He used to send his girls out to like just walk the streets basically and look for somebody with money or I don't know, go on adventures, try to look for new members of the family. And two of the girls, Dennis Wilson was driving by in his convertible or something. It's his Corvette, and saw a couple girls and picked them up, brought them home. They free sex. Manson that's how he did it. He'd tell his women who to have sex with, and they would do it. So yeah, the guy was just getting crazy poontang. But eventually, he became so terrified of Manson, he just left the house. Like he moved and didn't tell him where he went.
Wow.
So, I mean, it got so out of control. Well, I mean, at first it was like Manson coming over with two girls, and then the next thing you do, there's like 20 of them living at the house. It was crazy. The other thing I didn't realize
to me how guys can influence people like that. Like how the fuck does it get to that point?
Right. Well, yeah, Manson had the famous, his first Squeaky Fromm was she tried to kill Ford, and she was. I think it was he was driving by in his van. She had just gotten kicked out of her house, and it's not like a huge guess, but he's like, your parents kicked you out, didn't they, or something? You know what I mean? So it's like some lost, sad looking high school girl or whatever. It's probably easy to pick up. So that was a part of it, and the drugs, the LSD.
Oh yeah,
massive amounts, just wearing him down.
Yeah.
And, Manson wasn't really into sex, but you had to have sex with him. Like that was your initiation into the family. And after that, the goal was just to create an army, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
God damn it, man. Why couldn't the man had a few more years to do shit? Would have been so much more entertaining.
We'd have so much more material right now.
That lion bitch Kasabian. That was the name of the woman who had turned on the whole Manson family and like connected the dots and let the police know what the hell was going on. She was, again, it's all these little details. This is in the Tarantino movie too. She was the only one on the ranch. She had been there like just for a few months, and normally Manson probably would not. For sending out the murder, she was the driver for both because she was the only one with a good driver's license. The rest of them, police records or whatever.
Okay, yeah.
So, if you're going for a killing spree, you want to make sure, that you got a legit person behind the wheel. You don't get stopped. So that's why. And she was the one who was most horrified by it and didn't actually participate. And then she had not been totally broken down by Manson and the LSD, where she was just not going to say a word.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then a couple of the Manson girls tried to kill her too.
Wow.
There's all these. Yeah, I didn't know there was all these peripheral crimes that were going on. Like a bunch of them broke into a gun store and stole like a massive arsenal. And the police came. There's the shootout, and finally they're arrested, and just all this nonsense is pretty interesting. The best thing about Manson, I gotta say, I would love to have a cult just for this. He gave people new names.
Really?
What's your name? Cindy. Nope. You're Butterball. Like his child was like named X3274 or something. That's just abusive. You got to give some of the.
3274.
So I'm trying to think. Oh, Susan Atkins. She's like the of all the women in the Manson family. I think she's the most terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
Like she was already kind of half a thug when she came in, and she already had the killing her, and she's the one who killed with out of real pleasure. Anyways, her name is Susan Manson called her Sexy Sadie. So that's what her name was. Her name became Sadie.
Okay.
And they said that was interesting. That was part of the problem investigating, is because some of these people had 2 or 3 names and they didn't really know who the hell they were talking about. I was with Linda. Wait a second. I thought you were with Flower Girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Linda. Or, I thought you were with Mary. No, I was with Mary. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's just different. But yeah, man. I don't know the true crime stuff. There's actually a good one too on the Heaven's Gate cult. Do you remember those guys? They all thought this was I think the Hale-Bopp or the comet. Humans came from another planet, and as soon as they died, they were going to be lifted up by some great.
They all drank the Kool-Aid and died together.
Yeah, they all had matching black shorts, and they had like a mansion in San Diego they had rented, and like 30 of them died there. So again, the documentary is about the buildup, not just the guy who was the cult leader, but also these people, how they ended up in the cult, kind of like you say, like how did they get there? And
are these both videos or are they like
no,
audio?
podcast. I mean, obviously Manson, you can find a gazillion documentaries on it. I read Helter Skelter, the sort of the definitive book from the prosecutor's perspective.
Oh, you did?
Well, Tarantino came out with his movie that was, did you watch Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
No.
Okay, this was Academy Award nomination. I'm not a huge Tarantino fan too, like some people. I mean, I think he made a couple of great films, but this was an amazing film. And his ingenious thing, I don't know if I want to ruin it for you, how it is. He's got all this Manson family stuff, and you got this actor and his stuntman buddy and they see the Manson family a couple times on the street, and how they ties these 2 stories together is pretty ingenious.
Huh.
And the ending is totally unexpected, or at least it was for me, and totally exhilarating, I guess. Yeah. Oh yeah. I think you'll like that movie, Steve. This is for the real men of the world here.
Okay. I actually wrote it down right now.
Yeah. No, I like the movie a lot, but
Okay.
I'm hedging here by saying not a lot of people really dislike Tarantino, so that they can't stomach anything he does. But I think this one is.
I think he's got some good ones, and he's got some really weird ones. Like the Kill Bill ones were just kind of strange for me, But I thought Pulp Fiction was amazing,
right?
I
couldn't even make it through. A lot of people say, "What is it, Dirty Rotten Bastards?" What's his World War II?
Dirty Rotten Scoundrels.
No, that's the.
Are you talking about the Inglourious Bastards?
Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had like the one scene where Bear Jew. I don't know if you watched it. Like,
yes,
the Jew comes out with the bat, who's cracking people's skulls. I just turned it off.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, like he can use sort of like he did with Django. He wants violence, but he knows to do the level of violence he wants. He now has to make it kind of politically relevant. So here it's Jews killing. Here it's Jews killing Germans. Basically, they're basically Jewish Nazis just killing. I mean, killing machines.
Yeah.
And then Django is, blacks killing Southerners. So you have 2 justifiable homicides, I guess, and he kind of runs. So those 2 movies I just didn't like. I couldn't get past that element of them.
That underlying message or whatever.
Yeah, it's not even a message. It's I don't know. The violence is too much for me sometimes with him. That's usually my drawback from him. But yeah, I liked actually my favorite Tarantino movie he didn't direct is True Romance. His favorite script that he's written, I should say. I love that movie there.
Interesting.
But Steve, I guess we should hustle along here. We got a hand you want to discuss, right? A listener hand, or do we need to go?
Well, I could go either way. I wanted to say I did something in the last week that I haven't done in probably a couple of years, and that's does it involve
a rodent, Steve? Because I might not want to hear the rest of this story.
That's the next one, but I can leave it out. Yeah. I sold all my Bitcoin. I did the math too. I printed out the financials from 2014 when I bought that one Bitcoin for $450, and then I bought another third of a Bitcoin when it was at $3,000 for 1,000. And I found for Bitcoin, I made out pretty well. I
Sounds
put
like about a
in
10K bump, right?
almost. I put in 1493 total, and I sold out 95. Where's the number? Whatever, 9,500. So I made about 8K from Bitcoin. Unfortunately, I also thought it a good idea at the time to start buying up all this other shit like Ethereum, Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin. I think that's it.
What do you mean? You
Uh,
just did that? What, like today or no?
oh no! This was a few years ago when everything was, when
Oh, that
Bitcoin
okay.
when
So,
Bitcoin Cash was at $1,200, and I bought one, and now it's sitting around 230.
so are you just going to hold on to that stuff? That part
See,
of it?
that's the thing that I wanted to talk to you about, is because, like, do I? As it stands now, whatever I have left in Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, and Ethereum, um, if I sell everything now from what I put in to what I get out, I'll be up $4,300. Um, if I just let it ride, and let's say all this shit goes down to zero and I don't get anything, I'll be up 2,700. So I basically have $5,000 on the table right now on this other coins that if I sold today would only be worth 1,600. So
Right.
do I just let it ride and try to recover some of what I've try to make that 4,300 5 or 6K, or do I sell out now, wrap up my 4,300, and then wait for Bitcoin to get back down around $3,000 to get back in?
Yeah, you said just what I was going to say. I mean, I guess that would be the prognosticators. Maybe it's better to sell now, and that 1,600 might be a half a Bitcoin in 3 months.
That's what I'm thinking.
So, which is interesting. So I actually wanted to ask you. I forgot. I've talked about how my brother's like you, very financially motivated and always thinking of. And I was telling him, I had a very small, I put some money into like stocks, which I'm probably gonna have to fucking sell now because I'm doing so bad in poker, just for like a son. I think I told you this, a little project for me and my son,
Yeah.
because he even wrote a little school paper about investing. So he finds it cool. Every day we look on Robinhood and this and this. And actually I think the one stock that he chose, I let him choose one, was Hyatt. We were talking about different stuff. He's like,
Oh, the hotel chain?
yeah, that's the one I think that's gone up the most for me. So it's pretty funny, but I might
Oh,
have to
cool.
sell. But I was talking about my brother saying, listen, I got to either sell this. I might have to borrow money from you. He's like, what's a great time to sell everything? He goes, the stock market is probably going to be this is his, I don't know what he's basing this on. I think he's just probably, people don't realize, the investor class, some of the long-term financial issues we have or whatever. Basically, if unemployment hits 15 or 20% in December when we're fully open, then he thinks the stock market is going to take a big crash. And he said, that was his advice: take it all out and you'll be able to buy double the amount that you have,
How long ago
in a
did he
few
say
months.
this?
Yesterday.
Hmm.
So
I
I
could
don't really
see,
have any
yeah.
financial, I will never watch the financial news network stuff. If I actually have to avert my eyes when I see Jim Cramer, he's on the top of my list of people who I'd like to fight. Just for my own weird personal reasons. So yeah, Steve, I don't know if you have any thoughts about that.
I watch the market every day. I look at the graphs, and it's just, I've just learned that the the news really doesn't dictate what the market does. It's the hedge funds that are trading almost $4 trillion a day that are influencing it, and what they perceive the value of that company to be. And that's what you're trying to predict, you know.
Well,
Um,
I mean,
Now,
that's
some of these companies are going to take a shit when they go bankrupt because they're not able to put out any product, and nobody sat in a Denny's for 3 months. But that's really what's moving the market. And man, if I could tell you that answer, I wouldn't be a fireman. But
well,
as far as my investing strategy, I'm looking at it as a whole. These ones that I'm buying up have completely crashed, but from what I can tell from their financial statements, they look pretty solid. They have a lot of cash on hand, and they have a shit ton more assets than liabilities. And I think they're a safer bet. And a perfect example of that is the airlines. I looked at Delta, um, the ones I got were Delta, Southwest, and what was the third one? Copa Airlines. They run out of, they kind of connect the Americas, Central, South, and North America, running out of Panama. They all had pretty good financials and looked like they could weather the storm. You know which one did not? Avianca, the one that my ex used to work for. And sure as shit, they went bankrupt, and the other three have gone up. Now, I'm not saying to buy, anyone that's listening and is thinking about buying these three, I would not buy now, because I got in 2.5 months ago when the price was significantly lower, and I wouldn't recommend buying now. I think it's a little high. I'm probably going to be selling here in the next.
I got to point out, Steve, the reason they have assets is because the government gave billions and billions and billions of dollars to like the auto industry. I mean, to the airline industry. So yeah, I mean, this is, I'm on the verge of a Bernie Sanders rant. I won't go with it, but that's like, they looked at which of the stock markets are going to be, which part of the industries are going to be most affected by this. I mean, there's public policy reasons you can say for it, but basically it was massive welfare for these airline industries who would have collapsed if not for the government. So the fact that these are brilliant companies, no, they've got connections and people give them money. I don't know. Some people are saying, let all these big auto, let all these companies fail. And there will be, it's not like we never had planes again, but some of these would have the assets where they'd have to sell them off, and there'd be a great
company that would have the money. Yeah.
Yeah. This is where you do your studies and say, okay, who can weather the storm here? Like that, this is if this were a true capitalist system, it wouldn't be, government bailouts, it's, people would describe it as corporatism, but it seems this is kind of depressing to me when you're saying this is the only thing that changes the stock market is these guys with trillions and trillions of dollars making decisions, which I'm sure is true. But shouldn't the stock market take a massive dive if there is a massive spike in unemployment? I mean, why are these two things not related?
Maybe it will. I don't know. I don't know.
I mean,
I do know that usually when a company lays off employees, you know what the stock price does?
Goes up.
It goes up. Yeah. I think it's simply because they cut expenses.
Yeah, it was, again, the stock market. I just get it. Yeah, that was the thing with like IBM used to take that as a real point of pride. We've never laid anyone off for any And then finally they got rid of like half their management or something. They just streamlined and got half, and their stock just went crazy. I remember that. I'm like, oh, this is kind of the opposite of how it should be. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, that's what the company's supposed to be doing, right? To maximize, to minimize labor costs.
Yeah. I mean, if you're not making a profit, then you're not doing all the other employees a favor by keeping people on that are going to run you bankrupt, because then everyone loses their job and the company goes out of business.
Yeah. I mean, again, this is information that I've looked at, but I can't remember. But like the difference between the companies, like the biggest company 50 years ago, let's just say it was General Motors, for example. Obviously, you got a lot of people that work for you there.
Yeah.
Who are physically doing stuff. So there was, let's just say the average over $1 million, I don't know, prorated of a company, you would have 6.5 employees, kind of thing. But now you have companies of trillions, billions of dollars that can operate with a much less employees. Obviously, any of this Netflix streaming service kind of shit, anything that's online, online commerce. A lot of the letters you get from companies after you buy this, that's not even that's from some high level software, which kind of there actually is fascinating. It can kind of gauge the emotionality of the person who's writing it, supposedly.
Wow.
Like you someone says a letter, you send someone, like maybe it's the words, someone who has a higher level of anger or rage or something like that. You respond like a kind of a different tone, like even more apologetic for a problem you might have or something like that. So
interesting.
Shitstorm coming, Stevie. Don't worry. You got a big hose to keep the flames from licking across your feet.
Yes.
I don't know who else is going to get burned here. I don't know, Steve. Am I hurting your show, Steve? Is it time for you just to find someone else? Let's be honest here. I mean, I just say the same damn things over and over again.
Oh no, this is perfect.
It is. Are
You
you
couldn't
sure?
get two more opposite ends of the spectrum, I don't think.
I just have to. I have to be. I
It's
know
the
I've told some.
duality that makes it work, you know?
I think some of my anecdotes are just so fascinating. If I've told them 10 or 12 times, if there's just one person who hasn't heard it before, it's,
Oh, it's well worth it. Yeah, just drown it
yeah,
out
right,
again. Yeah.
Steve?
Just
No, it just, yeah. This genuinely occurred to me the other day where last night when I'm just suffering with money, it's like just nobody wants to hear about this, because if I do go out and, I have started looking at a couple jobs here, possibilities. I mean, by looking, I'm talking about just getting online and thinking about things internally. So if I
Googling
cannot make,
something and then closing the computer frustrated.
well, I've seen the writing on the wall here. It's just, I've said that before. This is not sustainable. You
Yeah.
can't be this low rolled. And like I've had in my bank anywhere between like 3 and like 25,000 over like 3 years. And even 25,000 under rolled. That's only 30 buy-ins in my game. So somehow I've survived, which I'm proud of. But if I'm out of poker, dude, I don't know if I can do a poker podcast if I can't make a living playing poker. That's too much.
We'll take it one day at a time, sir.
Don't mind that. That's my son just coming back here to grab a sack of sugar to go back to his room.
Fruit Loops?
I don't know what it was. Chocolate covered cookies, I think. Yeah, I just, his mother watches this diet. I cheat by saying, eat what you want, but you just have to have like an apple and spinach every meal.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, he's having like sugar cereal for lunch sometimes, just, but he's doing it. He's got some spinach, kale juice, and an apple. So it's like, okay, that looks healthy to me. I don't know. It's more
the spinach gets down there with the sugar cereal, kicks its ass, and it kind of evens out.
Yeah, he's. I don't know, Stevie. Okay.
Are you still playing on the
Poker Bros?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what my first 8 weeks, I had like 8 straight winning weeks. And I just assumed that was like, this is a site where I couldn't lose money on. Mm-hmm. But basically I would need such horrible variance to lose because so many people are just giving their money away. But I don't know how much of it's run bad, and the site's improved. Mm-hmm. Typical things. Some of the, the whales get crushed, and more and more, true grinders sniff their way and find their way into it. So after 8 straight winning weeks, I think I've had 4 or 5 straight losing weeks.
Oh, really?
So between that and Oceans opened up, and I immediately had I lost 1,900 one session and 2,300 one session. I've had 3 winning sessions. I've outset, but my winning sessions are smaller, like 300, 500, 900. So I'm down. I mean, Steve, I've explained this. My monthly nut is so fucking high, really, for what that a losing month is like 2 losing months in a row is just it. I'm finished. You know what I mean? I can't afford it. So I do work hard and grind hard when I'm in trouble. So hopefully, eventually, I'm gonna have to win one of these big. That's the main reason probably for I'm playing less cash and more tournaments on Poker Bros. So obviously, there's higher
variance.
Yeah, I mean, the big tournament they have, the 125K. I think I've come like the top 50 like 3 times over the past 2 weeks or something.
Wow.
Which sounds good, but it's
yeah, but you still got to get first, second, or third.
Buy in for 50, you make 400, but then I'm also firing multiple into the. I do love I final tabled it once, and I seem to always do okay in it. I wish there was 5 of these a day. The $100 Super KO, because $60 goes towards the knockout.
Oh, interesting. I haven't played that one.
I've never played something where more than 50%.
I haven't either.
So 2/3 goes to, I think it's like 7 p.m. in the blue room.
Okay.
Yeah, this would be one of those, Steve, you like learning where you have to obviously you get near the end. Let's put it this way. I was at the final table. I can't remember what place I played, but some of the first place was only like 2,100, but you had people with bounties on them that were over 1,000.
Wow.
So the difference between 4th and 3rd is probably only a $300
Oh,
jump.
So this was a progressive knockout.
Yes, I'm sorry. It's progressive. Half of it you get, and half of it goes towards. And they became, even though this is a $100 tournament with 300 people, it's, just think about how quickly it goes. $60 bounty. You got a $60 bounty. You get 60. You get 30 on you. You get 30, and you put 30 on top of you.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That adds up fast.
So you get these things at the end, and the tournament's always chopped, by the way. You get down to heads up, and I guess that's just at that point they each have like $2,000 bounties on their heads.
Okay.
So maybe that's just too much more variance than people, chop it up makes sense. But yeah, you've got these decisions which are interesting because these bounties are so valuable. I've seen people do it here where it's just like somebody shoves, somebody reshoves, and for 80% of their chips, if you have two people covered, you'll shove it in there with 8-5 suited.
Yeah.
And it might not even be a bad call if you got 20% equity.
I've watched some of Andrew Brokos's videos on that, and some of the calls that he makes. I'm like, you have 9 high, but then he pulls up the equity calculator and does 7 minutes worth of math, and it's like, huh, okay, well, you needed 33% there, and you're 42. Yeah, I guess that is a call when you add in all the bounties and shit. Okay.
Yeah, it probably I don't know if I have two people covered. Obviously, they both shove into me, and I've got 9-3, and it'll cost me a massive part of my stack. But their bounties are so large. Let's just say I'm in the money for $85.
Yeah.
Like the min cash is lower than the buy-in. That's all the money.
Well.
Um, yeah, the two bounties together, if that's $700, that's like me making the final table.
Yeah.
Is that a risk you want to? I pretty much kind of play it like a regular tournament, and that's kind of worked out for me.
Okay.
Just because, well, the opposite. If you get short, obviously, people will call you very wide.
Yeah.
If they have you covered. So that's kind of how my plan of being and the other thing is, yeah, you want to cover as many people at the table as you can. I mean, the bounties are just so huge. It's just so they're just, yeah. I mean, I'm making what bad folds quotation, but if you want to maintain, if I cover 7 people at the table and I'm jousting with the guy who has me covered,
Yeah.
I want to just maintain my chip lead over the other people. So I have to. And then the flip side of that, if people are understanding that concept, then you can really push some people around like crazy there who obviously want to hold on to their stack.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I haven't gone thoroughly through the math as I should, but obviously, and it's so juicy when you make the money, when you start seeing these, when you got someone like on your direct right. I had that. Last night I made the money, but I couldn't, at one point I had 7 or 8 people covered. Like, what was it? Actually, last night would be a good example because I made a play. Somebody under the gun shoved, somebody called, and I had somebody called in like late-ish position. And I called with pocket sevens. I had them both covered. So this is kind of, and I knew the second guy has like a big overpair a lot. And he had queens, but the bounties were huge. So between the two bounties, it was like $700 in bounties.
Wow.
So I get $350 before, but $700 for me, there's like 100 players left. I have to get like 6th place to get that, where I can get that right here, right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know. But on the other hand, I could have folded and still been ahead of a bunch of people there. But
yeah, but you're
like
right.
if you
What you're
like,
really going for is
how
the
much
bounties.
equity? I certainly have the equity to call there. I'm sure it's got to be a call, like because of like the amount of pay. Like I'm sure if I'm 20%, the guy under the gun was pretty short. He had like 5 or 6 bigs, so I'm ahead of his range for sure. And if the other guys, I might not even be behind his range, honestly. So it's probably, he's got like ace 10 suited and plus. And you wouldn't be surprised if he just snaps with king jack there either, So I don't think sevens was horrible. But even if I did the math where the guys under the range, somehow their ranges are really strong, they're both sevens plus.
Yeah.
It might be a call if I think I got 20% equity there. I don't know.
Yeah.
Probably should know that, but yeah, it's an interesting one, Steve. You'll join, and it's exciting. You know what I mean? Because normally you make the money, and you're like, okay, there's a long way to go to make any money. Where here, you make the money. You got someone on the right who's just been killing it with the bounties, and you have them covered.
Yeah.
You're making final table money right there. You've locked it up.
Yeah. 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 I don't know if I've played a progressive bounty now that I think about it. I don't know that. Played plenty of bounties, lots of them.
Yeah, I don't know if they have it on, 99% of my poker's been on, has not been on I know Poker Stars, that's definitely a thing, which
Yeah.
I don't really play, obviously. So, yeah, but it's, I think it's a pretty cool concept. And like you said, I'm cashing very frequently, in this thing. And, I just, I don't mind riding the short stack. Yeah, a little bit because, I feel you get a double so frequently. You're
Yeah.
going to get it any hand. But I don't know, Steve. Yeah, you got to check that out. You'd like it for sure.
Okay, cool. Yeah. And if you're listening and you want to play with Mikey and I, let me know. Shoot me an email, headsuppokerpodcast@gmail.com, or hit me up on Twitter @HUP Podcast, and we'll get you in. At minimum buy-in is 500. But it's a lot of fun. It's kind of evolved from this private game where there was about 30 of us playing at any one time to still that same group, but we've been able to get into some other unions that have really big tournaments like Mikey's talking about. So it's pretty cool. It's a lot of fun. I dig it. It's got me back into cash. I haven't really played a whole lot of cash. I've just been so focused on tournaments for the last several years. Playing the cash games has been fun because there's a lot of action.
Well, Steve, you were so killing the tournaments. I'm surprised you're not, doing $300 or $400 in tournament buy-ins a day when you're off. Like that would be. But I don't know. I think you have run good in those tournaments, Steve.
I think so too. I think so.
It's hard to get it. It's hard to get a 200% ROI or whatever the fuck you had there. I'm like minus 15. So it's the opposite for me. You've learned love cash, and I've started like grinding lots of tournaments for the first time in a year and a half, probably.
Yeah.
And it has not been profitable for me. Yes, I should be multi-tabling 50 cent $1 and just be happy if I'm making $25 an hour doing that,
Yeah.
Just to take it as something as a given wage. Or this might be our longest show. I think once we were with Alex Venosa for like 3.5 hours, and we divvied it up into 2 shows or something.
Oh, that's right. It was, we did. Well, we're approaching over 2 here. Maybe we should wrap this up, huh? I could save.
It's either that, or I don't know if you want to do that. The kid sent to you, but
yeah, it's a hand I played. No one sent me a hand.
Oh, that's your hand.
Yeah, we could save it.
Message. I see a message. Hi, Mr. Barton, and then someone describes a hand. This is
that was from last week that we did with Alex and you and I.
We talked about this hand already.
Yeah. You must not have seen that. I copied and pasted it in your Skype because the only time we check our Skype is when we're about to do a show.
Oh, okay, that's pretty funny. I wonder if. Yeah. Okay, now I remember. We all agreed that he just got very unlucky. Well, he should have shoved the 7s there.
Yeah.
Okay.
But,
old ancient. Yeah, let's call it a day, Stevie.
Okay, let's do it.
Let's
do it. Right on. Well, thank you, Mikey, and thank you for tuning in. Here is your weekly motivational speech.
Where do I begin? In teaching you the lessons of life, all I can say to you, you have what it takes to make it happen.
I want you to stop limiting your beliefs. Limiting your beliefs is stunning your growth. Limiting your beliefs is putting you at a halt for you to get to the next level.
They looked at the most successful men and women of the world, and they found that they had like 7, 8 things in common. And one of the things they all had in common was a routine. They are obsessed with their routine. They don't have a gap of wasted time in their routine. I realized the reason why I'm so successful and the reason why I don't get in trouble like I used to when I was younger is because when I was younger, man, my schedule had so many gaps in it. I got up the other day like at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I woke up and I was just walking around I was like, I'm so tired. I heard the devil say, go back to sleep. I was like, yeah, you're right, I should go back to sleep. You know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna lie. I was like, bro, you on to something. I just gotta get up at 3 and get all my work done before y'all get up. I just gotta make all my phone calls while y'all still sleep. I just gotta make all my phone calls while y'all partying.
In order for you to believe in yourself, in order for you to get to another level in life, you need to understand that winners win and losers lose. Winners don't make excuses on why they can't get something accomplished. but losers do. Winners stay consistent. Winners are the ones for the change in this world.
Oh, do you think you're too smart? You're strong enough. How do you think you're too strong? See, to be strong, I need you to be weak. I need you to be vulnerable and say, you know what, I can't do it by myself. I don't need this false humility. I need you to be real, because the next time you get an opportunity, you gotta be ready, because we're turning dreams into reality. Let's make it happen right now, me and you. Let's make it happen right now, me and you, because you're smart enough.
Losers, they have a limited belief system in their self of making excuses, procrastinating, being lazy.
And we're gonna make it happen, my man. Hey, sister, we're gonna make it happen, but you gotta get out your comfort zone. You gotta do something you've never done before to get something you never had. We gotta make it happen, and you gotta take advantage of it. You gotta maximize the moment to make it happen.
So I'm talking to somebody right now because there's somebody that's believing in you and that's cheering you on and that's supporting you and they're rooting for you, but you're not doing what you need to do in order for you to maximize your potential. So right now you're being a loser. And what I need for you to do and what I need for you to become and who I need you to be is I need you to be a winner. Why? Because winners win and losers lose. So I need you to stop making excuses, and I need you to move forward, and I need you to change, and I need you to do the things that you need to do in order for you to win. Because winners win.